What's up, everybody? This is Jay, and this is the true story of the life and death of Alpo-Martinez. You may know him as the character that was played by Cameron in the movie Paid in Full, but AZ, Alpo, and Rich were three very real gangsters from the 80s, drug kingpins. The stuff that they did was of legend, and his story and things that he did has spread worldwide. Now, his story is so tripped out that it would be more interesting and just as powerful as any of these TV shows that people watch today, such as Power, BMF, and all of those types of things. Before we get into it, I'm going to break it down. Please subscribe, bang that bell, hit that like. I'm going to explain the truth about his life and untimely death. So, buckle your seatbelt. Let's get into it. Now, his real name was Albert Geddes Martinez. He used to be known as the mayor of Harlem. A lot of people knew him as easygoing. He also was a very likable dude. Now, he came up in Harlem in the 80s, and at the age of 14, started serving on corners and getting that money. Now, you got to keep in mind, in the 80s, it was huge with the crack game. They had crackheads in parks 30 days straight, passing out. They had murder rate going through the roof. At that time, crack had people really wilding out, and you had to be there. And in that time period, to really understand the impact that crack had on the nation. Now, murder rate in Washington, D.C., where Marion Barry was the mayor and got caught on tape smoking crack in a hotel room. Alpo actually moved to D.C. after he was in Harlem for a while and set up shop in D.C. That's one of the downfalls to him, is when he went to D.C. Now, when he was in D.C., the murder rate started going through the roof. It's not just because of him, but just the whole drug game in particular. His friend Rich Porter, he was accused of maybe killing his friend. I'll break it down, as well as his little brother, but he didn't do it, and we'll get into that a little bit. Him, Rich, and AZ were three young kingpins. AZ, right here pictured, was the person that brought Alpo into the game, and I'm going to explain that as well. Azie-faison was played by Wood Harris in the movie Paid in Full, and while they were in Harlem, they were the stuff of legends. You had rappers and all kind of people rapping about some of the things that they did. Now, in the 90s, the murder rate in Washington, D.C. was less than 100 a year, in the 80s rather. And then in the 90s, it tripled to 400. And that's 80% of them drug related. Cops had a fear of actual breakdown of society. Now, D.C. was the murder capital of the world during that time. Crack was so addicting, it had people addicted from moms to politicians. And this is all the stuff that inspired rappers to this day to be gangster rappers. And even AZ laughed at what was going on with some of this stuff when he was talking about it in this interview, saying that a lot of these rappers today rap and take names from the things that they actually did. And I mean, it's really comical to him. He thought that was hilarious. Meanwhile, Alpo, he was from the Sugar Hill gang, and they also used to call him the mayor of Harlem. And LL Cool J song The Truth was all about hanging with Alpo, AZ, Rich, and they were like basically hood superstars before all of this stuff that's out today with rappers. And they were making like $100K a week in the 80s. They weren't even old enough to vote. Now, Sugar Hill, now nothing good was there, and death and destruction was around all the corners back in them days. And AZ and Rich were from the west side, Sugar Hill. And Alpo was from a tower off First Ave in Spanish Harlem. Now, Puerto Rican, he was Puerto Rican and he was fluent in Spanish. So Alpo, but he looked African American, and he began to deal drugs at the age of 14. Now, 116th is known for heroin during the Nicky Barnes, Bumpy Johnson, all of those legendary days, and that's known for being the spot where people get it popping. 116th Street, some of the biggest gangsters, some of the biggest crime stories, some of the most money and the underworld has been made in these areas and in the United States. And Rucker Park, that's right around Rucker Park, Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, legendary Park basketball players. Even Kobe Bryant played at Rucker Park before he passed away. And a lot of people, it was a roller skating rink right across the street from Rucker Park called the Rooftop. And people would go there to floss, pop their jewelry, look cool, whatever the case. Remember, they were still young. And it was a killing at the Rooftop that brought the boys all together. Now, AZ said that LA was the first dude he ever seen hustling, and LA was the dude that got killed. And when LA got killed, he was cool with Rich. Rich began to take over for LA. And so Rich was doing good, making a lot of money. But then later he got into a shootout, and then he began to give all his work to AZ to move for him. And that's when AZ eventually met Alpo after that, because AZ was making money hand over fist. He got cool with Alpo and then brought him in. At the time, coke was in bars and in local spots. AZ put it in bottles so it looked like a gram, but it wasn't a gram, so they would charge less. And AZ was buying cars like it was gym shoes, okay? And Rich, he was flashy with the jewelry, and so was Alpo. They were like flipping 4 to 5 keys a week. And Rich, it says, never wore the same clothes twice. Now, they say Alpo was like the Joe Pesci of the group from Goodfellas. Somewhat of a hothead, flashy, and didn't give a damn about the cops. And he would even have cops chase him while he popping willies down the street. And AZ, Rich, and Alpo was big time dope dealers. They was trying to lay low. They would tell him, dude, why you doing that? Chill. And they owned their city blocks at the time with all that dope flooding the streets. And Alpo, he would never chill. They never could understand it. He worked his way up from age 14 as a hustler on the corners to being the kingpin, helping them move 4 to 5 keys a week. They would have a single file line in the daylight of over 100 people or more lined up for dope, and cops would just ride by. At the end of 86, they set up a storefront, which has been changed and no longer there. And it was video games, and they would have, like in Miss Pac-Man and different stuff, they would have the dope inside the games. And AZ was saying, good dope sell itself. And they had to play defense because it was always somebody coming for them, whether it was cops, creeps, or stick-up kids, whatever the case. But Alpo loved the limelight. He was too flashy. He would buy a bike, crash it, buy a new one, flip it, whatever the case. AZ said he would buy thousands of dollars worth of fireworks and light them all up. He just loved the limelight, and he would never chill. But it all changed for AZ when he was shot. He was with three people that got killed with him, and he was at the apartments, Sangamore Apartments. His sister boyfriend set him up. It was 5 people with him total, and they ended up tying him to the bed. He only had $5K on him. In the interview, AZ said he remembered they had him tied up. They put the gun on his forehead, and he watched him pull the trigger. And he said he didn't feel anything, but his spirit left his body. And next thing you know, he was coming to in the bathroom, and he called out to people to see what was going on, but everybody was dead, and he just felt so much grief and guilt because he said it all happened because of him and it was all over money. They ended up pulling him out of there with 9 gunshots, 2 to the head, and he was taken to the hospital. It didn't look like he was going to survive, but cops wanted to talk to him, and the doctor said he don't even have 5 minutes. They said, we need them 5 minutes. They put the tape recorder on his chest, and he began to tell everything about the people that attacked him. He was pissed because they was taking too long. He like, hurry up before I die, and he told only on the attackers, nothing on Rich and Alpo, and all 3 attackers were convicted of killing the 3 people, and he basically got out the game after that. He said in the hospital, Alpo and Rich never came to visit him in the hospital, but he tried to warn them to chill, to stop, but they was too busy in that life. And in 89, he almost died. He said, that's enough. I'ma turn away. And what happened is that Alpo and Rich kept doing business. Alpo went to DC, and what made it even better for Alpo in DC is that he can mark up the dope, and the kingpin, Rayful Edmond, ended up going to jail at age of 24 for life. And Rayful Edmond was responsible for moving 70 to 80% of the coke in the DC area. Rayful Edmond is the legend of DC, and he was arrested in 89 with life with no parole, a month after AZ got shot. Alpo made lots and lots of money in DC. He expanded his business, and they worked together still, Alpo copping from Rich. Alpo would get a key for like $18K in New York and be able to flip it for $3, $4K more in DC. He tried to convince Rich to come with him, but Rich never wanted to, and Rich, Alpo believed, was starting to overcharge him $3K more per key. When you buying hundreds of keys, that adds up. And then in 1989, Rich's little brother was kidnapped, and Rich Porter family got a note saying, we got your little brother. And they said, look, we know you don't believe us, but go to McDonald's and on 125th and you'll find proof. Go to the bathroom. And when they went in the bathroom, they found a finger and the tape with the little boy crying, saying they gonna chop his head off. Alpo asked Rich if he was overcharging him, and they was having beef, and Rich would deny it all the time. And Rich family thought they would find out who had his brother. And Alpo picked up Rich one night with his hitman in the back, and they was riding near Orchard Beach, and he was talking to him about overcharging, whatever the case. He gave his hitman the signal. Dude shot Rich in the back, and Rich, he thought was dead, but Rich made a noise, a sound or two, and he shot him in the head and dumped him off over there. A couple weeks later, they found his little brother body dead in the same location. Next thing you know, his Alpo was in DC, and he got shot 3 weeks later. Now, Alpo ended up hooking up with Wayne Perry after that because he needed protection, and Wayne Perry was known for a hitman, somebody that didn't have a problem with popping you and handling business, keep it moving. Now, Alpo had a basketball team like most dope dealers did, and similar to Above the Rim with Tupac, and he had a problem with this dude, Demencio Benson. And so Alpo had a bulletproof vest on and a gun while they was out there hooping, and when he met Demencio on the court, he gave a nod and had Perry shoot him right there on the court in front of everyone. And the crazy part is not one person left the court, and they continued to play. It was hundreds of people there watching the game, and they dribbled over this dude's dead body and continued to hoop and play ball while this dude Demencio died, and that's how much fear he had. Now in Southwest DC, he was with this girl Rolanda, and he ended up getting pulled over in November of 91 and arrested. He was in the passenger side, and when the cops came, he was trying to put this car in gear and pull off, but she was in the driver's seat and didn't do it right, and that's how he got arrested in DC. Now, He was charged in D.C. with running a criminal enterprise, and he knew they didn't have a murder case on him, but that they did have drug cases on him, and he decided that it was best if he started to talk. And out of the 3 kingpins, he was going down. Rich was dead, and he ended up talking about not only the crimes that he was involved in with murder, but also he had to talk about other people's crimes as well. And under the federal kingpin statute, if they could link the leader to killings to further the criminal enterprise, he could get the death penalty. So the next thing you know, he started singing like a jaybird, met up with Pop from the barbershop, killed Blake. He was talking about as soon as he saw dude on the court, Demencio, he gave the signal and dude was taken out. And the main person that he ended up talking about first to put him in jail was his hitman, Wayne Perry. And he knew that eventually they would solve his crime, so he decided to trade info, and it took damn near a week in debrief to get everything out of him. 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. He had so much info to give. And he told not only dates, motives, and more, he also had to admit to killing and ordering 14 people. And they also had DNA fibers and all type of evidence. And it also came out that he was the most remorseful for killing his boy Rich Porter. And he also, didn't want to confess to that. But he knew that that was a big chip that he had to do and confess. It was later realized and told that the uncle is the one that had killed the brother of Rich Porter. And the uncle is the mother's brother that actually lived with them. And that just showed how grimy the game could get. And in 1992, Marion Barry went to jail, and so did Alpo. And Alpo got 35 years after cooperation. He was supposed to get out in 2019 with good behavior, but he was actually released in 2015 and was in witness protection program under a different name. Now, while I was in the process of making this video, the very next day before I was finished, this man was actually murdered in Harlem. So I'm going to break it down about his murder now. Now, on Sunday, Halloween, October 31st, Alpo-Martinez was shot and killed in Harlem. Now, it was saying that a man, 55, was killed in Harlem during the drive-by shooting, and he was on a Harlem street corner early Sunday, struck multiple times in the chest in a hail of bullets fired from a passing vehicle. What was also information that I have right here is it saying that police identified the victim as Abraham Rodriguez of Lewiston, Maine. And that was the name given to Martinez as part of the witness protection program. Now, it's saying that a high-ranking police source confirmed that the victim was actually Alpo. And the tripped out part is that Alpo had a son, and his son now fears for his life. His son just started reconnecting with Alpo. His father was in Harlem visiting. He was kind of tired of being in witness protection, and he wanted to go back to Harlem and hang and have fun and just live free. He thought that he had turned over, as they say, a new leaf. And what it ended up happening is that the streets is watching. The streets never forget. And they say that he was shot in multiple times in the arm and also once in the chest. And that's what ended up taking him out. Now, Alpo's son ended up realizing that he was his father's son while in jail, he ended up getting it confirmed. It says his name is Harvey and that he didn't grow up knowing his father, and the two only began a relationship years later after a DNA test confirmed that they were connected and he was the pappy. Now, he had long suspected that Alpo was his father, especially when he was targeted by other inmates during his own prison stint, including the time when he was even cut by an inmate he didn't even know. But he said he was still proud when it came back that was his dad. He said he would have been pissed, and it would have been even worse if he went through all that stuff that he went through and that Alpo wasn't even his dad. He said Alpo used to try to teach him with tough love. A lot of people think that because he's a kingpin that he was born with a silver spoon, but it wasn't like that because he wasn't around. I used to give him money. We used to look out for each other, is what his son said, Harvey. They spoke on the afternoon before his death. He said, and I quote, "I spoke to him earlier that day because my birthday is tomorrow," Harvey said, recalling jokes over an expected nice gift from his dad. That was the last time they spoke. Now, Harvey said he found out about the shooting when a friend from the block rang his cell phone and called him and told him because he remembered and knew and recognized his father's truck. Martinez's truck rear-ended another vehicle early Sunday morning on the Frederick Douglass Boulevard. The driver of the other ride told police he heard the shots but didn't see what happened, sources said. Martinez Dodge Ram then crashed into three parked cars by West 147th Street. Police found Alpo gasping for air in the truck, shot 6 times in the arm and once in his chest. He also had a graze wound on the left side of his chin. Someone had blasted him through the driver's side window. I started looking up stuff, and it was like Alpo-Martinez was shot, but he knew he didn't go by that name anymore, Harvey said. Police identified the victim Sunday as Abraham Rodriguez of Lewistown, Maine, and that was the name given to him as part of the witness protection program. Harvey assumed his father was in Harlem partying and seeing girls. He said that Alpo was living his life, and he think he kind of picked up where he left off once he was off parole. I think he just wanted to live a normal life for a change. He wasn't flashy like before. He barely even got his hair cut. He didn't have an Instagram. He didn't have a Facebook. He didn't want to do interviews, even though they offered him millions of dollars for interviews before. Harvey said his dad had indeed been living in Maine and was just visiting Harlem. He may have had a pad in New Jersey, too. Harvey lives in another state and took to social media to share his grief about this Halloween shooting. He said his dad had indeed been living in Maine and was just visiting Harlem. And he said, "I just lost my dad on my favorite holiday, which is 2 days away from my birthday, on top of me having COVID-19. He said he was speechless, and that is what he posted on Instagram. In another post, he said he had worked out some of the differences with him and his pops, and that they can say what they want, but I know what I know, and I forgave you for everything except leaving me here with this hate alone." And that's what he wrote on Instagram. Now, Martinez had his fair share of enemies. Alpo, he notoriously shot and killed Rich Porter, his best friend and business partner, which Rich was only 24 years old in 1990 because he had suspected him of cutting in on his deals. And members of the Porter family were out drinking champagne when news of Alpo death swept through Harlem. Harvey said he had mixed feelings about that celebration. Harvey said, "A part of me is like, y'all didn't even do it, so what are you celebrating?" But he said another part of him is like, how does that make it right? Martinez's life story served as, the basis for the '02 film Paid in Full, where Cameron, who played Alpo, and Mekhi Phifer, who played Richie Porter, and, we had Wood Harris playing azie-faison. And I mean, it's just really crazy, some of the stuff that happened with these guys in their life. Alpo cocaine empire stretched from New York to DC, and he was arrested in '91, confessing to 14 murders, became a government witness to avoid life sentence, and was released in witness protection in 2015. A lot of people just, the stuff that they lived and went through is bigger and more extravagant than most TV shows that's on TV today. And in 2019, Alpo popped up in Harlem talking to a crowd of people on the street. His videos and Instagram showing all of this, and he just could not lay low, could not leave well enough alone. And it's just sad that this is what happened to him. Now, he was a bad dude, and he did do a lot of dirt, so maybe what they say is what comes around goes around, and nobody forgets when you snitch. Harvey said that Alpo tried a long time to make amends with Rich Porter family by apologizing and even giving them money. He said he really wanted all this to go away, and he was trying to change his life, and you could see the elevation in his mindset, and it had changed something inside of him. But maybe it was too little, too late, and in the end, you live by the gun, you die by the gun, and it's another unfortunate story of a person gone because of the streets. The streets is watching. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this recap of this man's life and death. I hope y'all enjoyed the channel. Please subscribe, hit that like, the thumbs up. And if you all enjoy this recap and this information, please leave a comment below. Let me know if you would like for me to do more videos like this of gangsters past, present, as well as entertainers who met their untimely demise. I'm Jay. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, the podcast, and I'll see you later. Check out the description box below. Peace, be safe, and I'm out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit that like, subscribe, bang that bell, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.